But you talk about the Common Sense Party, but isn't that what the Reform Party, which is Lawrence Fox, is looking to achieve?
I don't know enough about that, but if that is the case, then all power to him. But he clearly hasn't got the right backing yet.
What I don't get is in the environment.
Suppressed.
Well, what I don't get is
talking about suppression. Did you know that a lot of serious scientists are being taken off YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and there's a new platform called Odessa, and these guys will talk and say, "Okay, gentlemen, here's a brief version of my talk. Go to Odessa for the full one, because I keep on getting taken down on YouTube or Twitter." So unless you got enough weight, you get sanctioned and suppressed. So Lawrence Fox may not simply have the weight and the influence to stop himself being suppressed, whereas the Labour Party do.
So, I mean, this is all interconnected with big tech and things like this. And, well, there's already been talk about Donald Trump coming up with his new social media platform. Basically, it's the only way he's going to get a voice these days. You've got the guy who invented the internet who's looking to create another platform, so the likes of Google and everything don't have as much power over it. Is that likely to occur, and how long will it occur before that happens? Because there's obviously going to be a lot of people, particularly in the right-wing corporate position, who are going to want to invest in something that's going to take some of the power away. Because if you give all these people so much power, they have so much control over what they actually feed to the people, which is why they're making their decisions. I mean, in the UK, not so much, but if you look at the States, for example, and the way things are happening over there, I think if the world is watching and they're using it as an example, and I think there was a lot of fear maybe in the UK as to why they made the decision the way they did, to go away from this wokeism and things like this, albeit, though, there's a new generation coming through that is being, I wouldn't say indoctrinated, but they are being influenced at a primary school level. So it's not about academia anymore.
It is supremely easy to influence humans, because humans are emotional, they're not logical, and they generally don't like thinking.
Yeah, but I think what is, we were talking, Theo and I yesterday, what is concerning me, and in fact my sentence was, I think that got us both going, or definitely got me going, was, are we the only ones that see this, that see what's happening with the control that even a conservative enterprise government are having over its population? For me, there was a timeline, there was a time limit, on how long you could carry on with these restrictions for, because it was necessary maybe in the beginning, arguably, just to keep it under control, fine, but not 14 months on. And it seems to me that it's going to carry on for quite a few months more. So my point is there another agenda? Sorry to put it this way, I mean, I'm not trying to be literal, but you'll get my point. Is the virus being used as an excuse for the governments of the world, including the UK government, to have control, this amount of control over its people? Because we've never seen this before in our lifetimes. This is unprecedented. And
no, we haven't seen it in our lifetime, but we actually have, but the thing is, if you go back in the past, you've got, if you think what our grandfathers went through in some ways, they went through the First World War, they went through the Second World War, they went through the Spanish flu, they have gone, through more significant things. They had the, you had the crash. I think was it 2018, the financial crash as well. So they've gone through far more setbacks than we have. This is new to us, so this is very significant to us. But I was going to say
1918. You mean, Andy? But
1918.
But those are real things. You see, they are real things with real focus and real danger that everyone agrees on. Whereas this is lies.
And
I was looking at three things, and I'll only be able to report fully when I've watched the third one properly. There's a documentary on the WHO that essentially shows the WHO is as corrupt as any other organization, and lies about practically everything. Secondly, the documentary on fishing that shows there'll be no more fish left to economically harvest by 2050. And thirdly, green energy, which shows that green energy is a complete disaster and actually uses more resources and damages the environment more than petroleum. Now, if that is the case, then you could easily put the point that Corona is a real conspiracy, because the powers that be, and most of them are Asperger's and right-shifted and no understanding of proper human beings, have decided that if we carry on like this, we're done. And therefore, by restricting us, by pushing us back 50 years, where what we counted as a luxury, what we count as an everyday thing, where Mr. Joe Public Universal Credit can go on repeated package holidays, that is going to disappear forever. And airline travel will now become a luxury.
So why isn't the Green Party, going back to Andy's original question about is there a space for another party, why isn't the Green Party a prominent force or gathering pace in the UK? It's nowhere.
Well, actually, I was discussing this with my wife the other day, that the Green Party seems to very slowly and very subtly coming in and actually becoming more influential. I mean, it's obviously very apparent that in Scotland that the SNP did not get a majority, but they've got enough support from the Green Party who've actually got in to be able to call a second referendum. Also, I think in Germany, there's a Green Party leader, a very attractive young lady, who seems to be up and coming.
I think the
Green
problem
Party.
is image. The problem is
it is image, and I think they've also smartened themselves up, so they're not like the same hippie-loving, hemp-wearing, free-hugging things that they actually used to be. They've smartened themselves up a lot, probably realizing that you've got to get through the front door first, and then you've got to make the changes. So they actually are creating a perception. So the Green Party do have some influence, but they are again still a very left-wing party. Look, I still have my own opinions on the environment, and I actually do believe that there is a concern there. But we have also heard this for a number of years, though. I mean, even 30-odd years ago, I was hearing this. 40 years ago.
We don't need the Green Party. The fact is, anything green is bad for us.
Well, it doesn't matter what we need. It's what the people. It's what the people feel they need.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, the Conservatives are already doing that. You see, the Boris Johnson has signed the UK up, and we're now heading Europe in greenness. We have the greatest reduction in carbon dioxide emissions in the world, which is the UK. We lead Germany. And of course, that's completely useless, because India and China have rocketed up and are several million times more than any reduction that we're causing, because all we're doing is we're outsourcing it to them.
Yeah, but also, I mean, you've got to consider that, when you look at India and China, they've got the two largest populations in the world. And secondly, there's and because of that, there's a large level of poverty over there. So if a Nike factory opens up in the middle of, Mumbai, for example, you can actually have those queues lining up the door, no matter how much damage that's going to do to the environment.
Well, exactly right. You see, so they are the sweatshops of the world, and in fact, Africa is also rapidly becoming the sweatshop of the world, because it's now becoming a Chinese factory.
So, are we saying that if we're going back to the original conversation about the Labour Party and Boris Johnson being quite popular against all beliefs that all the staunch Labour voters have actually voted for him? So are we saying that Boris Johnson is now plugging all the loopholes? He's touching the environment. He's touching socialism. He's touching health with vaccines. He's left. He's right. He's in the middle. He's everywhere.
That's it. That's the beauty of it. So he's got the personality.
He's touching all bases.
He's got the slight rebellious naughtiness, which people want to identify with and aspire to, especially in difficult times. Yeah. Then he's got the greenness, and so I mean the fact that he's an exceptionally unpleasant psychopath who's entirely self-serving is neither here nor there.
Well, the thing is, look, I mean, one thing you can say about Boris, he's I wouldn't say he's the greatest orator I've ever heard, because he does mumble sometimes, but he is very articulate, and he is actually very entertaining, which means he does capture your attention, and he can hold on to your attention. Something that Winston Churchill was able to do, and even Obama was able to do. Obama was a great orator, a great speaker. Hold on a second. And also, and because he can do that, he can probably pretty much sell anything. You know, but the mind you that he's also a journalist, though, so he knows how to articulate. The thing I'm disappointed, and funny enough, I actually said this probably about 8 years ago in an article I wrote, that I said that Boris Johnson would probably, I changed my mind, but I said he'd probably be probably one of the greatest prime ministers the UK ever had, and I think I may be right on that in that respect in this case, and I'll explain why. Because if Margaret Thatcher was the longest serving prime minister in the 20th century, or even the 21st century for that matter, the way the Labour Party have gone, Boris Johnson, look at he could remain in that position for the next 20 years or so, hence making him probably the greatest prime minister the UK's ever had. However, where it goes wrong for me is that he seems to have given up very much on conservative principles, which is very much a small level of government. People always all have the opportunity to be able to live their lives. They have they have much more freedom to make their own decisions, and whether they're using coronavirus as an excuse to be able to do that, to prevent that, is probably is probably a question for debate. But it goes against many of the conservative principles that his party is due to stand for. In fact, I actually said on Theresa May that the party seemed to have gone more left wing than it was right at one point.
Well, they will do whatever's necessary to stay in power, and it also therefore depends on how you define great. If you define great in terms of greatness of duration, maybe, but the fact is he's an absolute disaster. He says exactly what he thinks people want to hear, as indeed is the stuff of democracy, because you have to get elected.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Keep on saying, vested interest is about attaining power, staying in power, and making your opponent look bad. And he's very good at that.
And you're probably right in saying that, actually, the greatest in terms of duration, because I think he could potentially be there for the next 20 years. The way he can, and he's quite manipulative in how he talks and how he sells, which is what salesmen do to a degree. The guy is a performer, whereas Sir Keir Starmer is not. I mean, he's quite happy to bend the knee, and which for me showed such an extreme sign of weakness. Because one thing that happened over here, as soon as we started having the issues with the George Floyd Black Lives Matter thing of knocking down statues, as soon there was a point where it actually stopped suddenly. And in the States, it doesn't really stop. It just goes on and on and on. In the UK, okay, people acknowledge the Bristol one because the guy was a slave owner who'd done a lot for Bristol, but he wasn't really a significant character and figure. As soon as they started targeting, Winston Churchill's, and I think even they talked about sort of Nelson's column in Trafalgar Square, there's very much a conflict in terms of, as much as British history hasn't been great along the way, it is their history, and they don't want that taken away either.
And we've got the monarchy, you see, yeah.
But you've also got a lot of voters who have maybe been quiet over the years. The moment Boris Johnson has come in, again, whether you think he's a great leader or not, how you define that, is it longevity, is it integrity? I don't know, but the history books will say, a bit like Formula One champion in my sport in Formula One, whether you like Lewis Hamilton or not, you'll say he's a 7-time world champion. You won't be talking about this style of driving or whether he was for Black Lives Matter. So a lot of people who are quiet, maybe didn't vote, have voted for Boris Johnson, because this country, we talked about this on our podcast many months ago, about identity. This country lost its identity. We didn't know for many, many years what it stood for anymore. What is Britishness? What is Great Britain? We say Great Britain anymore? No, we don't. We say United Kingdom. But Boris is British. He has that Britishness, whether it's the humour, whether it's the way he comes across, or whether he talks about the country, whether he fought for London as mayor. He's got something. He stands for something. And that at the moment is all we've got because we had nothing for many years. So people are